One of the silent killers of the body that no one talks about is visceral fat. First off, it looks horrible because most of it is stored in the belly next to your organs. Most importantly, it's freaking dangerous. It can lead to preventable diseases like heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. And this is all while wreaking havoc on your hormones. And yes, losing weight is important, but more important than that is knowing how to burn fat. So if we know that visceral fat is dangerous and it's slowly killing us from inside, what is the most effective or even efficient way at eliminating visceral fat and doing so without chaining ourselves to a treadmill? Well, I want to tell you that it's going to your extremes to understand your balance. For 20 years, I've studied fat loss, specifically losing belly fat. I've used the tactics that you're about to learn, and I've taught thousands of others on how to turn their bodies into fat-burning machines. Like John, who lost 10 inches off of his waist and 90% of his visceral fat off his body. Or Daniel, who went from a 42-inch waist to a 34-inch waist while losing 50 pounds off his frame. Or Mark, who is a CEO who lost 33 pounds while putting on muscle and dropping 7 inches from his waist, all in his 60s. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact strategy to drop visceral fat and lose at least 2 inches off of your belly in 30 days or less. But I have to warn you that this plan is not for everybody, and also it's not meant to be done in the long term, especially when it comes to the first 14 days, which we're about to get into. So at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you exactly how to ascend and evolve into a more sustainable weight loss and fat loss routine. So here's exactly what to do for the first 14 days. Now, I would do a combination of what is called a protein-sparing modified fast, along with resistance training and walking. Now, I talked about the protein-sparing modified fast in this other video right here. And essentially what it is a little bit more of an extreme diet. You're essentially eating nothing but lean meats and vegetables. You're going to be getting your fat intake from your meats, and you're also going to be getting your fat intake from supplements like omega-3s. When it comes to starchy carbs, when it comes to grains and things of that nature, we're completely eliminating it for the first 14 days. Now, the key to this is making sure that we're getting at least 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. I like to give our clients and also myself a range of protein to hit because our lives are busy. Every single day is a little bit different than the other. And if I give them a range, then this makes it easier to at least hit the bare minimum and also gives them an opportunity to hit the maximum of what we need. Now, along with the protein-sparing modified fast, what you want to do is you want to split this up between at least 3 to even 4 or 5 meals every single day, and you want to put yourself on a specific schedule. Now, the schedule that I would recommend is going to be correlated with your sleep and wake cycles, and I call this eating to your circadian rhythm. So a lot of people really focus on what to eat, but not a lot of people focus on how and when to eat it. And it's simple. When you put your body on a schedule of eating that correlates with your natural rhythms, it makes the process of eating and also mitigating hunger a lot easier to deal with. So for the schedule, we always start at the top. We always start like when you go to sleep. We want to stop eating at least 3 to 5 hours before we go to sleep. And I know that a lot of people have problems binge eating at night, and I'm going to do an entire video on that and how I was able to eliminate that from my life, but I'm going to do that a little bit later. So if that's something that you deal with, make sure that you're subscribed for when that comes out. Now, the next meal that comes before that is going to be 3 to 5 hours before that meal. And then the final meal is going to be 3 to 5 hours before that. I like to use 3 meals because I find that's almost a perfect balance for energy, hunger, and appetite. And when you have this semblance of a schedule and you start to abide by it, you're going to find that your hunger is going to start to abide by the times that you train it to eat. In terms of the meal composition, you want to have at least 30 to 50 to sometimes even 100 grams of protein per meal that you're eating. And a lot of people are like, oh shit, like how do I get this much protein? I've never eaten this much protein. I have to schedule my life around this. And I totally get it, especially if you're not used to eating this much protein. So I would recommend going to this specific video right here. You can bookmark this for later. And this is my step-by-step guide on how to get the amount of protein that you need every single day. And the supplements I recommend to do on this specific diet would be omega-3s, creatine, magnesium glycinate or L-threonate, a multivitamin, and electrolytes for your water. Now, In terms of people who should not be doing this diet, I would specifically say that adolescents and anyone under the age of 18, I would not necessarily recommend something like this for them. In general, I would not even get them to diet at all. Also, if you're dealing with a medical condition, this is something that you would actually have to run through with your doctor before even thinking about doing this. And again, I'm not a doctor, I don't play one on the internet. You always want to run things through your doctor, especially if you are dealing with a medical condition. And also, if you're pregnant, you shouldn't be even trying to diet in the first place. So I would not recommend that for women who are actually nursing and also who are pregnant. Now, along with the protein sparing modified fast, I would pair this up with 3 solid resistance training sessions per week. I would specifically go with a full body workout on a Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday. Now, I wouldn't necessarily take these exercises to failure because on this diet, you are dealing with a severe amount of calories that you're eliminating from your body, even though you have the right amount of protein. And that might result in a little bit more fatigue. So I would actually leave at least like 2 reps before failing on an exercise. You want to feel somewhat fresh, and also that's going to keep you away from injuring yourself, especially if you are feeling a little bit more fatigued from not having as much energy going into your body. And lastly, I would pair this up with walking every single day. I actually don't think anyone should be doing long endurance cardio, especially when they're trying to lose fat. A lot of people are not primed to run long distances, especially if they have a lot of weight to lose. And I find walking to be one of the most underrated exercises to maybe burn a little bit more fat, but it also reduces stress. It improves brain function. It does so many things and is so low impact that almost everyone can do it. I would aim for about 10K steps per day, every single day on something like this. Now, the thing with the protein sparing modified fast is, yes, it's going to burn glycogen. It's going to be reducing a lot of water from your body, but also we're going to be burning primarily fat instead of muscle because you keep your protein high and because of the fact that you are resistance training on top of that. And also, we want to be using supplements to make sure that we have just insurance to get the nutrients that we need, just in case we feel a little bit more tired than usual or a little bit more hungrier than usual. And when you pair this with resistance training and you pair it with walking, what's going to happen is that you're going to maintain your muscle. You may not build a lot of muscle, you may not even build any muscle, but you will maintain what you have while burning a ton of fat. Now, you only want to do this for 14 days. And here's the reason why. This was not and is not meant to be done as a sustainable diet. There are certain hunger hormones and appetite hormones that will come into play, especially if you've been on this for a prolonged period of time. I find with my clients and also with myself that 14 days is kind of like the sweet spot to stay on this diet before any of the deleterious effects of your hormones start creeping in. And by the way, if you want a free guide on how to do the protein sparing modified fast, just comment below lean and I'm going to send you a direct link for that. Now, what happens after these 14 days? Well, we are going to evolve into more moderate, sustainable, healthy eating behaviors. So we'll start with the macros. I mean, you should be opting for at least 90% of your foods coming in through single ingredient, nutrient dense sources. Now, the macro split that I would use, especially if you're still going to be in a caloric deficit, is going to be 40% from protein, 30% from carbs, and 30% from fats. And also, like, if you're wondering, like, how do I calculate this? I don't get it. You can actually go down below into the description. There is a free macro calculator from Andy Morgan, and I find that's one of the better ones that are out there. And when it comes to the diet, you still want to maintain the same meal schedule that you had, because when you do it for longer, it's going to further ingrain when you start to feel hungry. And I always like to say 90% of foods coming from really whole, healthy, nutrient-dense sources, and 10% from whatever you want, because I do believe that you should have some form of flexibility, especially when it comes to eating. And this is what leads to more sustainable behaviors in the end. Now, if you were a client of mine, this is how I would specifically recommend for you to eat. I would actually get about 50 to 60% of your calories in meal 1 and meal 2. I would also eat your carb intake earlier on in the day. And at night, I would probably keep yourself to a lean meat and veggies. I would keep that particular meal to be around, say, 40% of your calories. And I always find that when we have a lighter meal at dinner, it does optimize us for a better sleep at night. Now, we're still going to be doing resistance training because it's still important. But because you're going to have extra calories to play with, you can actually go into these workouts with a little bit more intensity, maybe going at least like 1 rep before failing on an exercise. I would still keep up the same number of steps. I would still make that a mandatory part of your day. And again, walking is one of the best ways in which to burn fat, but especially visceral fat. Now, in terms of any cardio, I would recommend one specific type of cardio. It's going to be high intensity, vigorous types of cardio, things like high intensity interval training or even sprinting. And you would want to do that maybe like once every 7 to 10 days. It really depends on your recovery from session to session. The way in which I would do this inside my workout is I actually do an upper lower split. But when it comes to doing the sprints, I kind of treat that as a leg day, because after you do something high intensity, especially with the lower body, what's going to happen as a result is you're going to feel the same type of soreness as if you did a leg workout. And then from there, I would just continue on until you reach your fat loss goals. Now, something you have to understand is that I believe that going to your extremes at first allows you to find your balance later. When you get quick results, especially in the beginning, it's actually hyper motivating to lean into healthy behaviors afterwards. And how do I know this? We've been honing in the system for the past 20 years. Before this, I actually owned a gym for about 11 years. I was a personal trainer before that. And since 2018, I've been doing what I've been doing now, which is helping high achieving entrepreneurs, executives, and professionals drop body fat with ease and minimal stress. And after these 30 days are done, what you want is you want to lean into a system. So the same things that you do to lose fat fast are not going to necessarily be the same things that you do to keep it off. And here's a simple system that I've created that you can actually follow. Now, this is what I call the fat loss flywheel, aka the abs system. Now, don't mind the writing because, I don't have the best writing. I kind of write like a doctor. So, number one is we assess. We always want to make sure that we have data points that inform us of whether or not we're on the right track. And we always want to be using things like our weight, our inches, pictures, DEXA scans, even like blood work on a deeper level to inform us of whether or not we need to make changes. Next, we need to have some form of a diet that is going to help us burn the fat. There has to be some form of cognitive restraint, especially when it comes to the diet that we are implementing, and hopefully the diet that we're implementing, and it should be sustainable, especially in the long term. This doesn't mean that you can't do things to really rapidly lose fat in the beginning, but it should always evolve into doing something more sustainable that turn us into fat burning machines. Next, we have build. That's actually build. Let me check. Maybe I'm missing an I. There we go. Build. So we always want some form of resistance training to maintain metabolism and even to increase metabolism. When we do this, we want to make sure that as we're burning fat, we are doing something to maintain what we have, because the worst thing to do is just to lose weight, not to lose fat. And then that means you're burning muscle. So building is super important. That is one of the keys to maintaining your fat burning furnace. And next we have sustain. These behaviors are going to be a little bit different than what you have used to initially burn the fat, okay? These might be a little bit different. You might have a little bit more of a flexible lifestyle, flexible eating style, but also something that I'm going to say is with a lot of the people that we have worked with, we actually find that when they burn fat, when they hit their fat loss goals, it actually is a springboard into better results. They actually want to do more things, whether it's raise their VO2 max, whether it's optimize their blood work for longevity. They actually take it as a springboard and a launching board rather than taking it as like, oh, I gotta maintain what I have. Yeah, when people say that they want to maintain, it usually is a death knell. We actually have created a new body, not just because we want to look better, but because we can actually do more things with it. So you want to create new goals. You want to actually create new peaks for yourself, whether it's gaining muscle, whether it's optimizing for longevity, whether it's climbing Mount Kilimanjaro like some of our other clients did, but you want to be setting new goals for your body because, hey, you basically got a new toy to play with. You might as well just use it. And then we make sure that we are using this system, assessing where we are, always having some form of data point to inform us of where we are. And we're using the system to make sure that we stay or get to the new peak, whatever it is. This is the system right here. Now, whenever it comes to losing fat, to me, it's simple. It's actually mathematical. And also, something you have to realize is there is a lot of psychology that is involved with this process. You need accountability. You preferably need a community. You need some form of support. But that's an entire video for another time. If you want a guide on how exactly you can put this together, just comment below, Lean. I'm going to send you the guide down below. Now, we are talking about visceral fat. It's pretty important. It's pretty dangerous. Go to this video so you can learn a little bit more about it and also a long-term strategy on how to eliminate from your body. And I will see you there. Take care.